Now, let's talk about tools for layout. We have a number of visual tools available to help us suggest to the user appropriate ways to read and interact with the screen or device. This could be the use of grouping and structure, order of groups and items, decoration, alignment, and white space. Grouping and structure. If things logically belong together, then we should normally physically group them together. This may involve multiple levels of structure. For example, in the figure shown, we can see a potential design for an ordering screen. Notice how the billing and delivery details are grouped together spatially. Also note how they are separated from the list of items actually ordered spatially and by a line. The design of ordering screen shown earlier reflects the logical structure on the right side. An order has two major information: administrative and order. Under administrative info are billing details and delivery details, and under order information are the things ordered. If we look at the figure again, we can see that the screen seems to naturally suggest reading the billing details first, followed by delivery details, followed by individual order items. Is this the right order? In general, we need to think, what is the natural order for the user? They should normally match the order on screen. For data entry forms or dialog boxes, we should also set up the order in which a tab key moves between fields. Occasionally, we may also want to force a particular order. For example, we may want to be sure that we do not forget the credit card details. Moving on to decoration. Again, looking at the figure above, we can see how the design used boxes and a separating line to make the groupings clear. Other decorative features like font style and text or background colors can be used to emphasize groupings. Look at the microwave control panel in the figure above. See how the buttons differ in using the foreground and background colors, the use of green and gold, so that groups are associated with one another. See also how the buttons are laid out to separate them into groups of similar functions. Alignment of lists is also very important. For users who read text from left to right, lists of text items should normally be aligned to the left. Numbers, however, should normally be aligned to the right for integers or at the decimal point. This is because the shape of the column then gives an indication of magnitude, a sort of mini histogram. Items like names are particularly difficult. Consider the following figures in scanning information like family names. The first figure, it's clearly hard to look someone up if you only know their family name. To make it easy, such lists should be laid out in columns as in figure 2. Or, have the first name and family name reversed as in figure 3. Compare the two figures. Which table is easier to find the largest number? For numbers with decimal point, it is easier to find the largest number by aligning them at the decimal point. Multiple column lists require more care. Text columns have to be wide enough for the largest item, which means you can get large gaps between columns. Look at figure 1, and you can see how hard this makes it for your eyes to scan across the rows. There are several visual ways to deal with this. Figure 2 uses leaders, or lines of dots linking the columns. And figure 3 using soft tone grays or colors behind rows or columns. This is also a time when it may be worth breaking other alignment rules. Perhaps right aligning some text items as in figure 4. This last alternative might be a good solution if you're frequently scanning the numbers and only occasionally scanning the names of items, but not if you need to frequently look up names. You can also see that this is an example of a design trade-off: good alignment for individual columns versus ability to see relationship across the rows. White spaces. In typography, the space between the letters is called counter. Often, the shape of the counter is the most important part of the composition of a painting. And in calligraphy and typography, The balance of a word is determined by giving an even weight to the counters. If one ignores the content of a screen and instead concentrates on the counter, or the space between the elements, one can get an overall feel for the layout. If elements that are supposed to be related look separate when you focus on the counter, then something is wrong. Screwing up your eyes so that the screen becomes slightly blurred is another good technique for taking your attention away from the content and looking instead at the broad structure. Space can be used in several ways. Some of these are used in the figure shown. The colored areas represent continuous areas of text or graphics. In figure 1, we can see space used to separate blocks, as you often see in gaps between paragraphs or space between sections in a report. Space can also be used to create more complex structures. In figure 2, there are clearly four main areas: ABC, D, E, and F. Within one of these are three further areas, A, B, and C, which themselves are grouped as A on its own, followed by B and C together. In figure 3, we can see space used to highlight. This is a technique used frequently in magazines to highlight a quote or graphic. Now let's look at one example with all tools for layout present. Using the microwave example before, we can see the grouping of items. The first group is for defrost settings. Next is the type of food to be microwaved. And another is also the type for cooking settings. Second, the order of items. The layout in the control panel is ordered in such a way users naturally configure the settings, from the type of heating, to temperature, to cooking time, and then the start, the oven. For decoration, it uses different colors to distinguish different functions. It also uses lines around related buttons, such as the grouping of lower and higher temperature buttons. Alignment. The different groups of buttons are aligned properly, no zigzag pattern or etc. that may disrupt the flow of the user. The use of white space or gaps also aids in grouping. Buttons that are related have little to no gaps, and if it's a separate group, a gap is used to aid that grouping. That's it for tools for layout.